Good day, guys. Today we are going to look at your pet. So this is the pet that you have been given. It is on your My eBooks app as well as on the drive in the pet folder. So these are the guidelines for your tasks. Very exciting. You can really be happy. It's only 28 pages. So there's no worries. Here's a contents page. We're quickly going to look at what the pet is all about, but you should know because you've done one last year. Then we are going to look at the mark allocation, and very important for today is obviously the topic, and then what you need to do, be able to do the pet, and everything that you need you do have. What happens, what may you do, what may you not do, non-compliance, which talks about if you don't do the pet, then you fail the year. And then this is the important part for today, the pet requirements, and then the instructions for phase 1. So we will be covering everything from page 3 to page 8. But important for you guys is page 5 to 11. And in this video, I'm quickly going to talk about these first two as well. Right, so we're going to skip all that because that's not important. Maybe just there are okay, we'll look there, the annexes. Assessment tools, that's very, very, very important for you guys. We're going to scroll down to page 14 later on as well to see exactly where you receive marks for. And then these two declarations, I've separated them on the drive, I think under my ebooks as well. So you will have to somehow download them or and sign them, but we can always do that once school opens again. Okay, so what is the PAT? It's a project where you have to demonstrate the skills that you have acquired or received or learned over the past year and a bit. So it's not just grade 11 work, but also grade 10 work that you need to incorporate into your PAT. So yes, you have to show that you can work in an integral way with the different programming constructs that you've learned. Okay, so you have to implement computational thinking, other higher or order thinking skills, and formulate strategies and to solve problems on different levels. You have to develop, or the purpose is that you develop good working practices to prepare you for the real world, such as time management, thorough planning, perseverance to achieve and excel in what you set out in your plan, presentation and marketing of your product. So all this forms part of your PAT task, and I think especially the first one, time management, is of utmost importance because I'm not there physically to help you along, but obviously I will do my best to help you. If you have questions, WhatsApp them or email them or whatever, do smoke signals as long as they arrive here at my house. Okay, so the PAT task will be done in 2 phases. Phase 1 we'll complete almost in this term. And I say almost because there's a part in there that requires you to design a database, which we haven't done yet. So I will exclude that from phase 1. You will see later on they actually require phase 1 to be done by the first week of term 3. So guess what we're going to do in the first week of term 3? We're going to jump right in and do databases, and then I will give you some extension to finish phase 1, and then obviously we will do phase 2 as well. I might even give you some homework to read up on databases, which is not a bad idea anyways, because phase 1 is literally you're designing your database. You're not really working with code with your database yet, but we'll adjust that as we go on. Okay, so as I said here, no later than the first week of term 3, and then no later than the first week of term 4. I think we will stick to this date, submission date, but this one I will extend. All right. Yeah, so that strictly we can scrap from there as well. Okay, and then we will have an interview scheduled once you are done with all your coding and you have submitted your pet task. I want to see whether it was really you that wrote these programs or whether you had help. If you cannot explain your code, I will question the validity or the, whether you have actually written that code or not. Mark allocations. You can see this planning phase in the beginning carries quite a lot of marks, 48 out of the 130. So that's almost 40%, if not 40%. And then your coding and testing, that's about 50%. And then you have your final product or an impression. That's from the interview. I cannot see your conduct. In class, I would say, okay, how motivated are you to do the PAT? Are you working when you're supposed to work? Now you're on your own, but I will judge the final product and see whether you've handed in your PAT tasks when you had to, etc. And I will then give a mark out of 18 for that, for a total of 130. Okay, and just remember, your entire PAT task counts 25% of your final examination mark. So it is very, very important that you really spend quite some time planning this and executing this to the best of your ability. All right, so now, drum roll, the topic. Okay, you have to create an information kiosk. I don't know if you have seen them. If you walk into Bay West Mall, there's that little information kiosk when you can press and the map comes up and you can see where the shops is, and there's some information if you click on certain things. So these information kiosks you can find, in different places where there's large, usually large crowds, shopping malls, airports, train stations, game reserve, museums, etc., etc. Now, I wonder, here's a challenge. Maybe create an information kiosk for GLA with some of the history, class informations, interesting bits and facts and sport and the whole facets of school life, and specifically for GLA. So that's just an idea. I don't mind if you all take the same topic, because you can't really collaborate so much during lockdown. But yeah, there are there's banks, office lobbies, cafeterias, hospitals. So there's a number of examples that they are giving. So you have to create that. So choose an application environment, which is Delphi, that the environment like the school or the zoo, that where an information kiosk can be used, and to research on the information system requirements. You are not limited to the above mentioned list of ideas, but you need to keep within the overall theme information kiosk. Note that you need to choose data and functionality services in such a way as to develop a well-rounded application related to the topic. Okay, so one single project, so it's not different projects, one, which are all logically related. Okay, what you need, Delphi, an Office suite, word processing, and database. So some of you might not have the database software, but for this term it is not so important. But I have emailed Microsoft, and there's potentially that we can get free Office for you guys to install. Then this wouldn't be a problem. Otherwise, we'll do this at school. But a word processing software is obviously of vital importance. It doesn't have to be Microsoft Word. It can be LibreOffice as well, or Notepad. If you want to type in there, that's okay. I can post it, copy and paste it into a Word document. But you need to type out your pet task. Okay, and then storage media to back up your work, or email it to me or put it on the drive so that I have access. The drive is actually a great backup one, because I can have access to it and you have access to it as well. So when you make changes, just save it back on your drive for safekeeping. Okay, malpractice, obviously you cannot get help from someone without acknowledgement. Others, allow others to do programming code for you, not allowed. Not. Submit work which is not your own, which is kind of the same as, Then share your work with other learners. You're not supposed to email someone. Include work directly copied from books, the internet, or other sources without acknowledging it. That is kind of the repetition of point number 1. So malpractice, for which a penalty will be applied depending on the seriousness of the offense. So if you use work from other resources, it may not exceed 10% of the work that you submit. So you can get help. You can download parts or Google, but make it your own. So if you don't know something and you Google it and you find code that is perfect for your things, study it. Don't just copy and paste it into your program. Study it, make it your own, close the Google thing, and then write it yourself. That will then not be copying. That will be your own work then, because you have acquired the knowledge. But if you just copy without really understanding the code, that will be an infringement on the rules that were set out. So non-compliance, if you do not, you will get a 0 for the pet task component. And if you get a 0, you cannot write the examination, which means that you fail grade 11. We do not want that. Okay, requirements: a database connection and database manipulation that entail performing different CRUD, create, read, update, and delete operations. That is exciting, but we will do this in term 3. Multi-form graphical user interface with good functionality and ability based on sound HCI, human computer interface principles. The use of a text file for input-output purposes, for example, to populate data structures and to provide reports. And a lot of you have done this already last year in your PET. That was actually not required, so you have learned already a skill there a year ago. And then other data structures that will be relevant to your program. For example, an array and so on that we were busy with now. The database must have at least 2 tables. Content is sufficient. We're going to skip through that because you don't need that. Although if you up for it and you want to design your database already, just make sure it needs to have 2 tables. A database basically stores large quantity of data, which you then can access. So in an information kiosk scenario environment, it could be that you have a table with all the different, let's say you chose the zoo. One activity with, one table with all the animals and their requirements, and another table, the people working there. And they can be linked by, which person that works there takes care of which animal. So the animal table would have the detail of the animal, which cage or whatever area they live in, what food they eat, etc., and what person takes care of them. And then the next table, caretakers table, you have the caretaker's name, their number, details, what they specialize in, etc. And then it's linked on that point, the caretaker ID and the ID that's in the animal table. So that's just an example. Think about that. So you don't really need to have the skill in order to create that database, but you can already think about it and plan what data you're going to store in a database, and so on. Okay, then your interface have at least 2 forms screens that allows for navigation between forms depending on user choices. You know how to do multiple forms, but you can also use a tab, a page control in your PAT, like you've done last year. Interact with the database, okay, obviously, and then comply with the relevant, this refers to the form being neat and tidy, not overcrowded, easy instructions so that the user knows exactly what happens when you click what button, etc. Text files for output or input, arrays. The mark obtained for your project will be greatly influenced by the quality of programming code that manipulates the data successfully in order to adhere to user requirements in the best possible way. Quantity cannot replace variety, effectiveness, and quality. Okay, so it's not just about the amount of code that you put in there, but the quality and how effective it is. Okay, here's the instructions now, and this is what I would like you to do today, is I want you to define the task. So you're going to write today approximately 200 words explaining and describing exactly what you need to do. So explanation must highlight that you understand the needs of the task you have chosen. Your solution will solve the needs of the task, provide a simple, brief description of the scope of the project. That will mean you will say, I will make use of an array for this purpose and text file for this, and so on. Okay, then the rest I'm going to ask you to read, and then if you have questions on that, you can ask, but for today I'm asking you to complete the task definition. And if you don't get done by the end of the period, then you can continue doing homework. There wasn't homework planned for that reason, because I know it might take a little bit longer until you've figured out what you actually want to do. Okay, let's quickly see. Design the graphical user interface, so then you can go ahead within the next weeks. I've scheduled working on your PATs in this time, so then you can read the instructions of what your interface must look like. Your data dictionary, that's literally where you're going to use, what data structures are you going to use and for what it is. And then you have to have an IPO tables for the different data structures that you have, and there's instructions like this, and then you have to hand in the following, and that's it. And then phase 2 starts. So let's quickly jump to page 14. Okay, here's your assessment tools. Very, very important. So you can see you can score today already 4 points if all of these points are there. So this guides you very clearly what I'm looking for. And then you can see what mark. So mark your own task definition and see what would you give yourself. And then it's a good indication of what I would perhaps give you. Maybe I'm a little bit more critical than you, but yeah, try to do that yourself first. And then your user requirements 4 marks, navigation description, flow diagram, all that you can see, data structures. Look at this, explaining all that, 4 marks. So you can score a lot of marks quickly. Your interface design, the input of data, validation. You have to say, okay, I get this input, but how do I validate it? And how am I going to validate it? And your data processes and the output. So you can see this is your IPO table: input, process, output. And so you can see that those are really, really crucial. 4, 4, 4, 4. That's already 20 marks. That is almost half of phase 1 on the IPO table. Right, and then that's a total of 48 marks for phase 1. And then you already have 40% for your pet task. And this is crucial because it sets the tone for phase 2. Alright guys, thank you. I hope you will do well today, but I know that you will do well overall when you hand in those pets. I'm requesting, I'm asking, I'm demanding that you guys get at least 80% for your pet. It is so important because it boosts your marks in the end.